Today we're gonna make this game Robot Street Ultra upgrades. Let's go over the coding of the index file. In our index, we have the doc type, the HTML declaration. We put an overflow hidden on the HTML style to make sure that the game bleeds the whole page. We have our title, the Tabageos intro CSS to show a little loading animation before the game starts. It'll animate this table. It'll animate each letter in this table and put a little loading bar here. Then we have the style of the game. We have a custom font that we're going to use for the body. We have our custom HUD CSS, which has the images that we're going to use in the HUD here as part of the CSS. We just have some base 64 images for it, and in the game we plug it in using the library code to plug this in as the images for the HUD. We import our three main scripts and style for the TATS basic game objects library. And we have a map script, an upgrade script, and an enemy script. The style on the body, we put the margin and the padding as 0, also to make sure that the game bleeds to the edge of the page. And we include our custom font. This section here is the basic layout for the game. It has a div, it has a container div that holds a root div and the controller div. And then lastly, we include the game.js itself. Okay, next let's code the maps. So our maps.js class is pretty simple. In this game, we only have the one area, the one scene, which is this scene here, level 1. It's an array of the y, x index of each tile spot for the whole scene. In the background, one thing that we did wrong up here is just let game classes equals a new object. We just declare that once, and all our game classes will be referenced from this game classes object. So we'll say game classes.areaMaps equals area maps, and that's how we'll reference this in the game.js. Okay, so let's begin to code some of the game.js file now. We've used code snips to give us the basic outline of the game skeleton extension, and we edit the specific game specs for this game. An explosion factory for quick animations. We define all the properties that we'll use in the game class. enemy type will return a random enemy type. Coin animations. This is defining where in the sprite sheet to draw the lights from. The lights are part of the sprite sheet. Same for crosshair rect. Those rectangles are defining where in the sprite sheet we draw from. This will be used to do the title screen animation. Switch randomly between lights shown on the title screen. Initial setup happens before the title screen is shown. You define the player, different things that take place to set up the game entirely, including the title screen. For the player. The player is a map traveler. The gun is a rotating shooter, which automatically rotates and shoots. Draw to the display. Draw the background and the level, ignoring those arrays. Find the initial player health. Define Z for the B button on the controller. Those are the values that we want the player to be able to walk past. And now we're setting up the custom HUD using the CSS from the index. Just reference the IDs that we defined in the CSS. We hide the HUD initially. Set up standard buttons, which sets up 4 buttons for us. Using the rotational controller if it's a touch device. We dispatch function assignments, that's the initial level setup. We instantiate the upgrader class, which we'll go over in a bit. We define a pool of bullets for enemy bullets. Defining their animations. Define the firelight animation. This will show as a light, so it'll be a light that gets shown. Initializing the lights there for the game. Manually define the buttons for the title screen and options. And we set the title screen loop to be the loop initially to show the lights in the background of the city randomly showing. Various methods for the title screen. We're on the show options part, we remove the buttons that aren't needed and put the buttons that are. We just redraw the title screen actually to show the options part. We set it up to where the user can change the volume or the game darkness using the same volume slider. So here we're setting all of that up. There's two sets of words on the options, change darkness or change volume, and based on what they select, we change the color of those words there. And this is the method for actually changing the game darkness. Manually changing it, which means we have to call actual apply lights at the end here to manually make it happen there. Show credits method, when show credits is pressed, show the credits. Again, we just redraw the title screen actually. And then when show title, when back to title is pressed, show title again is called to redraw the original title screen and start over the title screen loop. The whole game has a timer as they play, and if it loses focus, we pause and unpause that timer. Back to title happens if they go from the game screen to back to the title screen, resetting everything. Some of these properties aren't really used, and we'll just get rid of them. Before start game happens, after the start button is pressed, we remove the options and credits button. Go ahead and show the custom HUD, and setting do alternate to 0 causes the main loop to start happening. Level changing and level has change happen just as they're called. Various setup things happen when the level changes. Now it only really changes once in this game because there's only one level. But those methods happen when the level changes. Level setup also happens during level change, when a level changes, and initially. And we also manually call level setup in the initial setup method. Spawning coins. Spawning enemies. In this case, we just call level setup to spawn an enemy. Showing grenade info shows the information to press Z to actually throw a grenade when they get a grenade for the first time. The main loop. Make sure the custom HUD is shown. Move the player with the controller. We set the gun to be in the middle of the player. If it's a touch device, we rotate the gun with the controller. Otherwise, we rotate it with just the mouse. We spawn enemies randomly. And then now we animate each coin. And the coins will ease to the player. We actually don't animate each one. We animate the last 10 coins collected to the player, just to limit the amount of easing and separation that is done. Okay, we do the enemies now. The advanced enemies have their own routine in the enemies JS, enemy's class, pretty much, the missile shooter and the centipede. So we just call their routines. Every other enemy pretty much just eases to the player. And we have a separation throttle, which helps the game to perform a little bit better, that we don't call separate on each loop. Just every once in a while we call separate so that all the enemies separate from each other. Every health bar. The player getting hurt from colliding with an enemy now. Typo there. Throwing a grenade now, so if they press the B button, throw a grenade. The grenade has its routine also stored in the upgrades. The grenade classes in the upgrades JS. And this is the player now firing bullets. Okay, landed that at the end. Okay, so the M bullets is the moving bullets. That's moving each bullet, and then if it collides with an enemy now, we alert the enemy and show full animations. The spawn areas where the enemies come from. The goal of the whole game is to defeat these two spawn areas, and in order to do so you have to level up a lot and be able to kill off a whole bunch of enemies to even hit the spawn areas. But then once you can hit them, and then once they're both gone, there's no more enemies, and that's winning the game. So now we do the specifics of an enemy bullet. To denote what bullet it is, we've just used the health of the bullet. So if the health is so much, it's a player bullet, otherwise it's an enemy bullet. Okay, so if the bullet goes off screen, we're going to recycle the bullet if it goes away off screen. And that's the end of the bullets. Okay, so now we manually draw the player to the screen based on the gun's rotation also. Change the animation of the player. Okay, and then we call the EXF display explosions as displaying any and all fast animations. And then we draw the gun, the crosshair and the gun, and then finally the lights. If there's any lights, we display the lights now by calling animate lights and ready additional lights if there is. Instructions, the initial instructions at the beginning of the game. It'll show those for a while until instruct is 0. So with grenade info when they first get a grenade. Okay, now we're setting up the time count for the whole game. It counts how long you've survived, as it were. That is the whole game. Okay, next and then What we do here now is to allow the user to change whether or not, what that section was changing whether or not workers will be used. We let the user define it. For the upgrades, what I did here is just we have the order of each upgrade, the amount it costs in coins in order, and then everything else follows the same order. This is the name of the method to call if and when they have this amount to upgrade. The locations in the sprite sheet of each upgrade box. Tween, because the upgrades tween down real fast. Okay, and then different properties for the upgrade class. This is each gun image in the sprite sheet. Resetting the upgrade class. We have methods to get each of the properties of the class from the game. The determine upgrades method is called to determine whether or not to give an upgrade. These are the different methods that actually give the upgrade. Each one for each gun and upgrade to remove the buttons of upgrade. This is the method that's pretty much called from the game JS to make upgrades happen. Check coins and upgrade. Show upgrades is the game causes this method to hijack the loop to actually cause the upgrade boxes to tween down. This is that. We have the grenade class inside of here too. So the grenade makes an arc curve path to try to arc to where it goes, is, you know, to make it seem to be thrown. It's not perfect. But just put that together. Okay, so it's explosions routine. It makes actually 5 explosions happen so that it looks like a big explosion. Across, and it hurts all the enemies for 350. So pretty much whatever enemies within its radius pretty much will die, unless it's the missile shooter or a car or the centipede. Only the strongest enemies would survive a grenade. Okay, so that's the upgrade class. We'll look over the enemies class. The routine for the centipede. The centipede is a little bit interesting. The head is not visible, so that it can slinky, right? So as it turns, we want it to maintain this kind of slinkiness. And in order to accomplish that, we use an invisible part that is the part that's actually seeking the player, and this part eases to this invisible part, and it maintains a slinky look even as it turns due to that. So we have all that in here, the centipede routine. Okay, so we just pass in the bullets. We pass in the actual centipede itself from the game, and this is how it moves. Same for the missile shooter, which the missile shooter shoots. The centipede shoots too. So if the centipede is facing directly at you with its eye, it'll shoot. Same for the missile shooter. They both have to be facing you to shoot you. which you can shoot them even if you're not facing them. So that's one advantage you have, but they shoot crazy bullets. Okay. And so this is now pushing enemies into the enemy's array. So this gets called as part of spawning an enemy for the centipede, for the shooter, the beetle, the hornet. Okay, and that's the enemy.js, and that's the whole game. All of this code is on the GitHub, so you can look it over and edit it and play with it and make the game yourself.